Hey Sarah, so my name is Sarv, it's pleased to meet you. I run this YouTube channel, as you know, it's called Elevated and Meaningful. I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that you've raised and most of your talks I've watched on YouTube and read. I think what you're doing is very courageous move in creating a space for people to come and to express their true side. And I think that's very important. I think there has to be freedom of conscience. If people don't accept something, they shouldn't blindly follow it. I totally accept that. But one thing I do want to mention is that in my understanding, because I'm not a Muslim, but I do accept the teachings, the fundamental spiritual teachings, which I think all religions share. As a Baha'i myself, I was raised as my mom and dad were Baha'is. Something that the Baha'i Faith teaches is, that there should be individual investigation of truth. So I had to grow up and sort of figure out whether the Baha'i Faith was something that I should have followed. And I chose to do so. So there's no force by my parents to be a Baha'i at all. Everything is different in the Baha'i Faith because we live in a different time. We live in a time that knowledge is accessible. Everybody is able to read and investigate and research and come up with their own conclusion, whether they should follow this or that or whatever. Definitely, I think that as a Baha'i, I totally, understand that. One thing I want to mention is that because I'm a Baha'i and I believe that all religions are really one and the same fundamentally at the level of the spiritual teachings, they all teach unity, they all teach love. I think also Islam is a very interesting religion because Islam came at a time when people were barbaric and they had to transform a lot of times through violence to transform and become heavenly and spiritual. In that sense, Islam has changed from that time when it began to today. And I think when we take the same ideologies, things that are from 2,000-3,000 years ago and bring it to today or 1,300 years ago, it creates problems because, again, like you mentioned too, we live in 21st century and the needs of today are super different than that time. So we have to sort of live according to the time. We have to live according to the needs of today. In that sense, we have to evolve. And I think one thing that I've learned from the Baha'i Faith is that religion, just like science, it has to evolve. And I think Christianity and Islam, they still apply in terms of their spiritual, but the teachings, like the social teachings, have to evolve. The prophet founder of the Baha'i Faith, Baha'u'llah, this is what he said: "Be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements." This is very clear, right? It says that we have to be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age or the time that we live in. And we have to center our deliberations on their exigencies and requirements. So this tells me, that today, the 21st century is totally different than the 20th century, than the 19th century, than the 18th century, than many. So every century there's a different requirements. I know you're an atheist and I know that your organization is about atheists, and so I guess you guys don't believe in God, but the thing is that religion does exist. It is part of this world, and I'm not saying that you guys should come back to religion. I'm just if you want to, go ahead, but again, you're free to choose. I think in my understanding, you haven't stopped your investigation of truth, have you? I mean, if you have, then okay, but if you're still searching for the truth, and I think there is answers. The Baha'i Faith began, again, nearly 200 years ago. And their teachings are unity, that God is one and all religions are one, and that religion is progressive. It's like a different chapter of one book. And each time a new chapter begins when the world is going forward. And I just wanted to share with you that this exists, and I wanted to hear your criticism. I would love to hear back from you if you watch this and see if you agree, and maybe you haven't heard about the Baha'i Faith before and you could check it out. And I know you're a very studious person and you really look into things critically, and I really appreciate that. And another thing I want to mention is that, you know, again, religion is always going to be around. And the thing that I think the current rhetoric of the public rhetoric has been one of misrepresenting Islam with the way the people are. You know, I think a lot of times we misrepresent religion with people's cultures or people's way of life, people's rituals, traditions. And I think that doesn't do justice to the reality of religion, you know? And when we attach to those little things, then we somehow creep those old ways of forms of ideologies, and we creep it to the modern time. And that's what results into some of the rhetoric that we hear about Islam and Christianity and of other religions. Again, I think the most important thing that you can take from this, and I can take from this, is that we have to look at the needs of today, you know. So I think the fundamental needs of this age is world unity in terms of people from all races and backgrounds and cultures to come and sort of work towards one cause. And I think that's one of the needs of this age that we live in. And so the Baha'i Faith says that that's also the needs of this today. And so as Baha'is, we are working towards world unity and working towards understanding some of the things that are misguided, some of the falsities that we hear by other people from religions who advocate that, you know, it's from God, or, you know. And I think those need to be scrutinized for sure, you know. We have to definitely scrutinize what people say with what is written. We have to scrutinize what was written and for what age it was written, and if it applies to the time we live in. If it doesn't, that just suggests there has to be some kind of evolution in religion that we don't understand or we don't see. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you respond to this video whenever you get the chance to watch it. Again, I'm glad what you're doing. I think you should keep up your good work. But I encourage you to not stop investigating the truth. I think there's more to people becoming ex-Muslim. I think that is not an end in itself. I think that's just the beginning of greater things.